let's move on to the roundtable discussion, how to deal with stressful moments, PhD, defense, job interview, team management, etc. We have four members with me, five, which take part in the roundtable discussion. We have Dr. Dave Alker as a consultant from the United Kingdom. He is from the industry side and a recruiter. We have Dr. João António from the University of Lisbon, who recently finished his PhD and is moving on to his first postdoc and has some experience with interviews and also with the organization of the online event, the MedChem Trainee School 2020. And then we have Professor Poso from the University of Eastern Finland. He's a well-renowned scientist and also a guest professor at the University of Tübingen in Germany, and he is the person who has a lot of experience from the academic side and can also give some hints there. And last but not least, we have Anabel Jiménez, which will answer the questions more from the psychological side. Yeah. And yeah, the first question I asked you already, Anabel, maybe the others want to comment on what are the best tips and tricks to manage stress before a presentation, or what is also the difference between the online presentation and the presentation in front of a real audience. Yeah, who would like to start?
Yeah, I think I can start maybe, because I had this experience quite recently, so I think I can give a nice personal experience on this. So I totally agree with what Anabel said. I think that the stress is quite similar. You have a couple of things that you add up to the stress, because you have to check all the technical part that you usually don't check when you go for a live interview or for a live PhD defense, for example. But you also forfeit some of the other stresses that you find when you have a face-to-face interview or defense or something like that. So you just switch a bit the stress. It's an extra layer of stress, but it's a completely different layer of stress. I think that you should focus on exactly the same things. If I'm going to talk particularly about the defense, for example. You have to focus on the same things. You have to prepare your presentation. You have to study very well your work. You have to know the state of the art of your area. All the things are exactly the same. You have to prepare them exactly the same way. Everything else, I think you should not worry that much about that. My greatest advice to everyone that is doing a presentation, virtual or a defense virtually, is to focus on the things that you can control. Only on the things that you can control. Don't try to control everything else that's out of your reach or that is not your responsibility. In a PhD defense, your role is to defend your thesis, to know your work, to know the state of the art, and that's it. I have to admit, I was a bit stressed when I knew that I was going to defend my thesis virtually, because there was this trend that I saw people on Twitter talking about it, like called video bombing, when some random people just enter the sessions and start doing some completely random stuff, try to disturb the sessions. And in the beginning, that was a problem because no one was ready to deal with that. And a lot of people said that they felt a lot of stress during this situation, because it's already a stressful situation when you are defending and you have all these things that distract you. So it just makes it harder. So my advice is just focus on your role, okay? Everything else is going to be someone else's role. It's going to be the host's role to block out those people, to solve any technical issues that you find. So the only thing you have to focus is everything you can control, which is your presentation, your work, doing a great PhD defense. And if you focus on that, I'm quite sure that everything is going to go very well. And you can extrapolate that for PhD, for interviews, for example, afterwards. And yeah, I think that's the most important thing you have to focus on.
Thank you very much. Maybe Dave, you could comment on job interviews which are more and more coming online, and what would you suggest for the young scientists to prepare a job interview online, but also in presence? You can comment maybe on both.
So I'm not clear. I mean, there are obviously differences online versus face-to-face, but I think they're different. I don't think one is harder than the other. What is important is, more than anything, to have confidence in yourself, to listen to the questions, to give yourself, I used to advise people to count to 3 or 5 in their head before opening your mouth, because otherwise a rush of words comes out and it often doesn't make sense. So give yourself the space. One of the things I find in every situation, in a presentation, in a job interview, even just chatting, is you only know yourself. You don't know the other person. And it's so easy in an interview to assume that the interviewer knows everything and he's trying to trip you up, etc. Actually, that's not true. People want to hire, people want jobs, and it's about matching the two. And so providing the evidence that you have the qualities they're looking for, providing the evidence in your presentation that you're a capable scientist who knows what you're talking about.
Thank you very much for your insight. Yeah, this is often a problem, and these days when you have also discussions, group meetings, etc., online, and there are easily, let's say, disputes or misunderstandings. What would you suggest to do when there is a strong disagreement between a PhD supervisor or your boss? What would you suggest to avoid these, or to how to deal with these situations? And it was mentioned by João that there are some people that disturbing the presentation online or during a conference. I think this doesn't matter. The event is disturbed. So what would you do there from your experience?
What is that me?
Yes, Dave, please.
Yeah.
If you want to answer, you're more than welcome.
I'll let somebody else take that one at the moment.
Professor Poso, you have some comment on that?
Yeah.
Please.
So the first point is that every time there's a disagreement, that's when I'm looking from my point of view, I always go back to look what is actually the disagreement. And the disagreements, when it's a question about the PhD student and the supervisor, there are only 2 types of disagreements. The first one is that there's a subject. And if it's a scientific subject, it might well be that the professor is wrong. It's not always that way. The PhD student is the one who has wrong opinion. And then it's extremely important that the supervisor or the professor is brave enough to honestly look back the data. But at the same time, the problem is like also always when you are as a boss, if you really understand that you are the right in this position, how to give the data back, how to give your opinion without nullifying the student, without nullifying the, so, and then the problem is it also back the other way around. So the students, sometimes I have a lot of discussions, sometimes I see the student is so angry about something which actually has never happened, that he or she is telling something which is actually not hold true. And then the only way down is just to calm down, wait, let the person to, let's say, get the steam out, and then come back to the discussion and try to find out actually what is happening and so on. So it's you have to know the personality. So if you are the supervisor, you have to know the personality of the student and the vice versa. So this is one of the very important things. And the second thing where the problem sometimes occurs, and this is actually more important and more complicated, are the personal matters. And unfortunately, these are the things where it's extremely difficult to have an easy solution. Because if it's a personal matter, for example, some people are arguing against each other, and you have to, trying to get that away, or you have a disagreement with the student, not because of the science, but because of the way of behavior and this type of things. These are more personal. And then it takes a lot of time. I don't have a ready answer. I just that calm down, take time, and if needed, ask someone else to come. So every university usually have an ombudsman or some kind of middleman, and who can come there and help and make a discussion. You need probably someone if you can't do that. Don't let it explode. Ask at some stage some neutral person who has an experience how to deal with that one. So that's a critical point here.
And I'd just like to pick up on a point. I've collected my thoughts. I think for me, the most important thing is always, as you say, Antti, to reduce the temperature of the discussion, and to ask, and to also, in any interaction, always ask yourself, try and put yourself in the other person's point of view. So, the worst situations are where neither side listens to the other, and you end up in an escalation that can have quite serious consequences. So it's about trying to de-stress the moment, de-stress the interaction.
And there is one point also, which I think it's important to speak about: presentation, interview, disagreements, all these type of things. You have to always be honest. You have to be honest when you give a presentation. You have to be honest what you tell. You have to be honest when you are having disagreement with someone else. And the second thing is that you can practice these skills. You can practice how to give a presentation, but you can also practice how to handle stressful situations, like we had a discussion already, or the presentation, or how to handle situations that people are fighting. You can get exercises, you can take courses. So personal management is actually for the scientist extremely important. And if you don't know how to do personal science management, meaning also this personal relationship, and not meaning how to sell something, but really how to handle every person in your group. You cannot be a big professor. You can't be the leader of the group. You must know how to handle people. And that's a skill you can learn, like any other skill. But you must be honest in your work. That's I think, extremely critical here.
This is a very, very important point, what you mentioned right now, that a lot of professors have rather bad group management, and this is a problem of communication. I think this is gradually getting better as now there are more and more graduate schools, and people are paying more attention to soft skill training. This is applies obviously not to all groups, but I had some experience with this board, what Professor Poso mentioned, that where these discussions arose, that there were problems with the supervisors, and actually no one was talking anymore to each other, and it was a quite aggressive situation. But this comes to my next question, which I got. And body language and eye contact are key items in public speeches. How to deal with this during a virtual meeting? I mean, you don't see usually your audience, and this is also a problem. Then you don't have a feedback. If you have your audience and you see them all sleeping, you know that you're doing something wrong. But if you don't have that kind of feedback, this can be very stressful. How can you deal with that situation? Maybe this is a question more for Anabel.
Mm-hmm. So this brings us back to what we were thinking about before, or talking about before, the situational stress. You are being stressed out about a situation that maybe is happening to you or is going to be happening in the future. So for you, the best thing to do in that case is to imagine, figure out what is going to be happening in front of you. So to respond to the question of whenever you don't see the audience, how do you react to that? To me, what works, or at least what had worked today in all the webinars, is to think about something that relaxes me, because after all, you're not going to win anything from seeing or not seeing anyone. Okay, it is true. Whenever you see the people in front of you, you get feedback, right? From the movements that people are doing. But honestly, it's also not going to bring too much. What do you do if actually people are just looking to the side or feeling bored? Are you going to start backflips in the stage? There's not much you can do, right? So understand yourself and be honest with yourself. Be ready. Connect with yourself. That's the first thing that I would say. And also for online, internet connection is unstable. I'm sorry for that, guys. Honestly, the eye contact is very difficult because you have the camera, but you probably are also checking out the presentation that you're giving. And it also feels really weird to be talking, looking at a camera. So my recommendation, or what I usually do, is I try to put the screen that I'm looking at close to the camera, so that I'm sure that I'm gonna be at least looking the closest possible to the camera. And about the body language, just use the one of your own. You don't have to be extremely active on the screen, because that also won't look good, right? You want to be natural, the way you are. So use your body as in the normal way you usually use it. You don't need to make excessive use of your hands. I do a lot of use of my hands, but it's not bad if you are still. It depends on how you are. Just feel relaxed, and what Dave said before, what Antti said before as well, just be yourself. Trust yourself and trust your gut.
Thank you for your comment. And one other question I got from the audience: what advice would you give to a younger version of yourself, just venturing into the scientific field, industry, doctoral research? So what would you change if you could go back in time with your experience from today? Obviously.
I'm sorry, can I just follow up a bit on the previous question? I just wanted to add a bit before moving on. I agree with what Anabel said. One of the things that I usually try to do during virtual talks and is to try to, if possible, because if you are giving your presentation and you are sharing your screen, sometimes it's not possible. But for example, in this case, try to focus on one person and talk to that person and check her reaction or his reaction, and try to measure if the person is following you. And it's only one person, but at least you get a reaction, you get feedback, which is always good when you are trying to interact with people. And at least that's what I usually do, and I think it works quite well for me. But I think that virtual conferences and virtual congresses, well, giving a virtual talk is different from a presential talk, and I think it's sometimes it could be good or it could be bad. It depends a lot on the personality of the person. Because, for example, if you are a person that really likes feedback from the audience, and you measure and you adjust your talk by the reaction that the people are giving you, you follow into one direction, you give more jokes, or you try to be more formal depending on the reaction of the person, then it's very important to have that feedback. And here it's much harder to get, and it's very hard to adapt your presentations when you are doing these virtual talks. However, there are also other people that are much more shy or are less confident. And for this type of people, sometimes virtual talks are easier because they don't feel the pressure of having, for example, right now, I'm not exactly sure how many people are watching, maybe 100 something. For a person that is shy, it's completely different to be talking to a computer alone or with 4 or 5 faces looking at her, instead of having in a big amphitheater with 100 and something people looking at them. It's much harder. So virtual talks are not exactly bad. It just depends on your personality, and you have to adjust the way that you usually present to this new setting. But it doesn't have to be a disadvantage.
Thank you for your comment. Coming back to the question I gave you just some seconds ago. So can you comment on that? What would you change if you could go back in time and with being younger but with the experience of today?
I'm happy to answer. So I would listen to myself and the words I said a few minutes ago. So I would, we would say, engage my brain before opening my mouth. In other words, give myself 5 seconds before I responded to any question or comment. I would also tell myself that you should only talk or you should only offer an opinion when you have something positive and constructive to say. And if you don't, keep quiet.
That is a very wise advice. So Professor Poso, you also wanted to comment on that, please.
Couple of points. First, if you don't know something, but you want to have knowing something, for example, there's a presentation in the meeting, there's a congress and so on, ask. It's not stupid to ask, but it's stupid not to learn. And it's up to you. And if you make a question, you learn. Most probably, a lot of other people have the same question. So that's learn how to make questions. Second, very simple thing. Big professors are not big professors. They are just humans like anyone else. They have been young, so on. So, you know, there are good professors, there are bad professors. Learn who is good, collaborate, ask, discuss. If someone is ugly, rude, skip. Don't think that it's up to you. People are different, and you can choose with whom you collaborate. So I think these are, at least for myself, these would have a lot.
Yeah, this is very interesting point what you said. Just deal with the people you feel comfortable with. But yeah, we had some very interesting insights in because sometimes we have to deal with angry managers, colleagues, or just with an uncomfortable situation because we are in a course or whatever. What would you suggest? And this is our last question for today: how to deal with somebody you have to deal with it for whatever reason, and which is creating you discomfort, and how can you ease the relation? What would you personally suggest to get along better with that person you have to deal with because you do not have the choice?
Can I say something here?
Of course.
Thank you. So basically, as very well Antti said, everyone is human, okay? And everyone has a background, a history, a morning coffee, an afternoon discussion, a sick relative. So only in the UK, more than 50% of the people claim that they are stressed because they have a relative who is suffering from a sickness, okay? Now, these people are the people that we encounter. It's ourselves, is the people that we encounter. So what I want to say with this is that people are people, and this is the only thing that we cannot change. Everyone has something that is worrying. Everyone has something that is making them sad, happy, or whatever reaction it is. So it's our aim to understand that as much as we have feelings and as much as we have emotions, the rest of the people do as well. So sometimes when we feel that someone is being really rude to us, we can think, is it really only against me, or is it against a lot of people that are around? Is this person always like that? Does this person maybe have a problem, something that this person cannot really fix, something that is stressing this person out? So sometimes it's good to extrapolate it and not just think that you are the center of the universe and that is you the one that this person is trying to attack, but maybe it's the person itself. So be honest and be kind to the person that you have in front as well, and give them room to be mad sometimes. Just understand if what you're saying is your truth and defend it, okay? That doesn't mean that you need to be really soft all the time. If you are conscious and aware of what you're saying is right, defend it with politeness and assertivity, but mind that people have a life. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Anyone else who want to comment on our topic has some own things which we were not touching, or what we yet? Yes, please.
So just one of the comments about discussions with other person, or let's say personal relations. Be interested about the person. Be interested about the things he or she is interested. People like that they are interested about me. So I like person who are interested in what I'm doing, also outside of science. And do that honestly. And actually you can learn like quite a lot of things. You can learn, for example, that one very famous American professor who is not very polite usually likes Dixie jazz. And when I started to speak about Dixie jazz with him, he was very, very fine person, but it was only after that. And then, you know, the point is trying to find out. One trick here, for example, if I'm rude, start speak about Star Wars, and I get quite much more happier and more responsive. Find out what is the weak spot of other persons you're trying to, let's say, charm. So that's my advice.
I think that's a great comment. I came at it from a slightly different angle. I used to say with absolute belief, I had never yet met an uninteresting person. One or two people have run me close, but I've never met anybody who did not have some attribute or interesting fact or the story I would tell many years ago. Contact and I in the company really did not interact well or effectively. I thought he was boorish, arrogant, ignorant, and then in the course of a conversation, it turned out that he was a world-class tuba player. You never know.
Yeah, it's always important to have a look behind the curtain and to have a good insight before to judge and about a person. I think this is the most important thing, that just don't, the first impression is the most important one. Everyone surely agrees on that, but we should always take a step back and have a look at the person also from a different angle, and not to say this person is, and don't just listen to others and say, okay, this person is arrogant or whatever. Maybe you find the right door to this person and you can have an enjoyable conversations. I think this is a very important thing, to have your own opinion and just do not rely only on others.
And maybe still you will not enjoy the conversation. I'm sorry, Clemens.
Yeah,
sometimes it just doesn't happen, and that's also all right.
Yeah, sure. It's not every time working.
But if that is the case, so again, one of Dave's mantras is, at the end of every day, I must be able to look myself in the bathroom mirror and say, you're a good guy, you did the best you could. Now, it's not everybody else, it's you have, you stuck to your principles, you believe the things you believe, you were fair to people. You have to have that inner belief in your own abilities, and that's something I think that comes with experience. It's one of the things I used to find when I was interviewing, is it's very difficult, particularly for students, to appreciate that their professor failed exams, their professor didn't know the answer in the tutorial, it's a journey, it's a procession. So you can only be as good as the sum of your experiences.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you very much for all of you who take into the discussion round here. And yeah, let me share just the last slide of today. And what is our idea of the EFMC Young Scientist Network? We want to cross boundaries to build strong network for early career researchers. And most importantly, the registration is free of charge and open to everyone. So please, if you're not registered, do so. And you can see here our website, our email address, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever we have. We are responding to you. We are looking forward to your feedback. And please, if you have some idea, we would like to see this professor, or we would like to have this comment, this topic discussed, send us a message, let us know, and we are happy to listen to you. And I would like to thank my colleague Matic, who provided me with the questions. I would like to thank Brieux, who was managing all the technical stuff in the background, and all my colleagues who contributed to this event. And last but not least, I would like to thank all the speakers. It was very interesting. The questions were very well answered. And the last thing I would like to say, thanks again for the kind sponsoring of MercaChem SimCon. And I hope you enjoyed the event, and see you next time.